The most dangerous promotion in your career is the one no one prepares you for. It's not the jump from manager to director. It's not even the leap all the way into the C-suite. It's the moment your results are no longer enough and your presence becomes the multiplier. You see, as you rise, the very skills that make you powerful can quietly, painfully become the thing that limits your influence. I know this because I built my career on force, on intensity, on being the one that you call when the stakes are high, the details are abstract, and failure isn't an option. I built my reputation winning enterprise technology deals, often over $100 million per transaction, the mega deals. I mastered a very specific type of power, operator power. Operator power is prolific in corporations. It's specific, it's measured, it's rewarded. But operator power has a dark side. It also allows high performers to hide. And for years, for me, it worked, until it didn't. For most of my career, I was a phenomenal operator. They called me the deal maker, the closer. I was the leader who could walk into any deal war room and bend the outcome for the win. Elevate the team, drive the pace, win the mega deal. Operator power allows you to spike your energy when you need it, you collapse and retreat when it's over, you surge, you reset, you repeat. Nobody questions the leader who delivers the biggest results. But then you rise, and you're not just responsible for results. You're responsible for tone, for trust, for whether or not the people around you feel safe enough to speak, safe enough to take risks, safe enough to face the discomfort of their own growth. When you are the most senior nervous system in the room, your internal state becomes contagious. So your sense of urgency can be felt as pressure, show impatience, and it can land as intimidation. Your internal friction sets the tone for company culture, and that kind of force doesn't scale. You see, what no one tells high-performing leaders is this: the very skills that got you promoted will sabotage you at altitude. And what's worse, when your identity is built on being indispensable, you drive a pace that few can keep up with and even fewer can grow into. So subconsciously, you create pressure. You start over-functioning to fill in gaps. Maybe you start rescuing people around you just a little too quickly, or like in my case, retreat when visibility feels just a little too overwhelming. But there will be a point in your leadership where visibility is part of the job. And that ascension can be petrifying because then there's nowhere left to hide. This next evolution of leadership is not an external energy that you go take. It requires a deep internal alignment that you ground into and an internal transformation of personal empowerment. This is the journey from operator power to gravitational leadership. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about executive polish or charisma or even that old notion of gravitas. That form of leadership belongs to the era of hierarchy and proximity, where power went to the person who was sitting at the head of the table. Because leadership doesn't happen in conference rooms alone. It happens on Zoom calls and in Slack channels, across time zones, and often, let's be real, with more than half the team not even on camera. And yet some leaders command the room, even across a digital screen. Maybe you felt it. Someone joins the call, the noise settles, the conversation sharpens, people listen more acutely, not because that leader dominates, but because they settle the room. That's gravitational leadership. And in a world that's moving faster than ever, with more complexity than ever, this type of leadership is no longer optional. This is the new form of power. Maybe you've heard Maya Angelou's words. People will forget what you said. They'll forget what you did. But they will never forget the way that you made them feel. That same premise holds true in leadership. I want you to think about your own life. All of the leaders, teachers, bosses that you've encountered, how many have had a lasting, positive, profound impact on your life? 1, 2, or 3, if you're lucky? That's the power of a gravitational leader. Their positive impact lasts long after proximity fades. The first time I felt this kind of amplification, it wasn't subtle. I had just won my first mega deal, and I was at my national sales conference. I couldn't go 2 steps without being pulled into conversations. There was praise, but mixed with comparison. Curiosity, but sprinkled with political positioning. People were attaching themselves to me, to the win, people who literally had nothing to do with it. Everybody wanted something. And then I was invited on stage for all the applause, but never given the microphone. And in that moment, I felt invisible, only worse, used. And as I descended the stage stairs, one comment pierced through the noise. Well, if we looked like her, we would all sell mega deals too, huh? Really? I had just won the biggest deal of my career, the biggest deal in company history, and all I wanted to do was disappear. For days, I felt watched, analyzed, under a microscope. Every compliment felt like pressure, and every handshake like some slimy expectation. But I smiled so much, my face hurt. But on the inside, I didn't feel powerful. I felt hunted. And while I didn't have the language for it back then, I was experiencing gravity, and I didn't know how to steady myself inside of that. Maybe you felt that? By this point in my career, I could command a room. I could negotiate massive, complex contracts. I could protect enterprise value. But I didn't know how to protect my own energy. I didn't know how to apply those same skills to my needs. I struggled with personal things like boundaries and assertiveness and asking for what I needed. Because somewhere along the way, I had been taught to give of myself at all costs, including great personal sacrifice. So I did what many high achievers do, and I retreated. Not dramatically, strategically. I told myself, focus on execution, avoid the politics. But really, visibility felt overwhelming and fake. So I made a secret pact with myself. I would focus all of my energy on winning every mega deal I could so that no one could ever say my success was from looks or luck ever again. And the following year, when sales kickoff came again, I was in a deal war room, so I skipped it. And the following year, and the following year, and the next. And every time I did, I made myself a little more invisible and felt a lot more alone. You see, operator power felt safe because I could control the battlefield. Gravitational power was continuous, inescapable. Because there's this thing that as you rise in visibility, so do all the projections that start coming at you. Some people will celebrate your success. Many will start plotting your demise. Lots of folks want access to your influence. And when you're operating from force, you resist and you fight with those projections, and that is exhausting. But when you operate from gravity, you understand something very important. Those projections have less to do with you and more about what your energy ignites in them. You start to choose when and how you engage. And that distinction requires discernment. And discernment requires something most leaders never truly learn: internal self-regulation. My understanding of this didn't come from an executive training program. It came from a stage. So long before enterprise mega deals and executive titles, I was an exotic dancer. And I learned something in that world that no leadership program teaches. The women, the dancers, the ones who made the most money night after night, they were not the most technically trained dancers. They weren't even any one particular aesthetic. They were the women who could hold and command the room. They didn't hustle, they didn't chase, they often moved slowly, and sometimes they even stood still. And when they did, the entire room leaned in. You see, when customers are the conduit to income, you learn very quickly the difference between surface-level performance and deep, grounded, authentic presence. If I chased the room, I lost it. If I needed approval, everyone felt it, and neediness was very expensive. At 20, under the neon of strip club lighting and 6-inch acrylic platform heels, I understood gravity. Gravity's not built on proving. Gravity is built on steadiness. And that insight changed my perspective of power forever. Gravity's not built on proving. Gravity's not about the ability to move the room. Gravity is about the ability to stay steady while the room moves around you. 25 years later, as the Chief Revenue Officer, standing in a boardroom on Madison Avenue, leading a private equity roadshow, there was no dressing room to hide, no safe corner, just constant exposure. Breakfast, you're on. Cocktails, you're on. Side conversations, you're on. And when you don't know how to steady yourself inside of all of that, continuous exposure feels like threats. So I reverted to force energy. My voice sharpened, my cadence quickened. We were advancing, but I was exhausting everyone. And the hard truth was this: I wasn't over-functioning because I love control. I was over-functioning because being needed felt safer than being seen. And as long as I was indispensable, everybody loved me. 45-year-old me in a custom-tailored power suit had forgotten what 20-year-old stripper me already knew. Gravity is not built on proving. Gravity is built on steadiness. For a long time, I thought experiencing this kind of internal friction meant I had got to get out of corporate America. I was planning to go become a life coach. I really believed that corporate America just wasn't the place for a woman who's built like me, someone who feels this deeply, who wears their heart on their sleeve, who goes all in, who doesn't play games or politics. And then I had the opportunity to meet the first gravitational leader I ever experienced up close. She didn't dominate rooms, she settled them. She didn't escalate rising tensions, she metabolized it. She never needed to say she was powerful, you felt it the moment she entered. And what struck me most was this: I felt safe around her. My nervous system calmed down in her presence. And over time, as our mentorship progressed, she could calm me with one simple word, often sent over text: breathe. It was the first time in my career I felt that kind of safety. And what's deeper for me is this: as someone who grew up with an alcoholic father and a mother who battled chronic illness, and then later married a woman who couldn't hold all of me, this was the first time in my life I felt that kind of safety. Seen, challenged, never diminished, always loved. For the first time in my life, visibility felt safe, and that changed everything. The first time I found the courage to go to my national sales conference again was 5 years later, the first time I worked for her. Because somehow I knew I could be visible standing next to someone who could help me steady. The evolution from force to gravity is not about becoming louder, it's about becoming steadier. And the good news? Gravity as power is teachable. So if you, like me, are feeling that kind of friction where you're not feeling as effective in your leadership power or influence as you'd like, or maybe you just yearn to feel more steady so that you can be the force of gravity, there are 3 things that you can do. Number 1, regulate before you lead. Before the meeting, before the all hands, before the hard conversation, drop your shoulders, lengthen your exhale, slow your breathing. If your nervous system is elevated, the culture around you will be too. Be the calmest nervous system in the room. Number 2, stop filling silence. High performers are addicted to forward motion, but silence is where leadership expands. So ask the hard question, but then hold the pause. Let somebody else step into the space where you used to dominate. Influence grows when you stop rescuing those around you. And number 3, discern your motive. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this influence or control? Am I leading or proving? Operator power reacts, gravitational power discerns. This is not softness. It requires stamina and discipline. It's the power, but without the aggressive spike. So here's what I now know. The future of leadership doesn't belong to those who push the hardest. It belongs to those who can hold the most. Hold complexity. Hold paradox. Hold projections as they come at you without flinching. Envy, desire, fear, greed, all while holding steady within yourself. So the real question is not whether or not you are strong enough to drive the room, it's whether or not you are steady enough to become the gravity within it. Because when you are, you don't command influence, you don't chase attention, you don't even demand authority. You walk in, and the room reorganizes, and the people in it feel it long after you're gone. Thank you.